Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So this is a bit of a delayed stream. This was a race I did back on Thursday, but due to some technical difficulties, I've been having some problems with really laggy graphics when I run Zwift and my streaming software. So I either can stream and not race, or I can race and record and post later on, which is what I've gotten around to doing. So in this race, it's the chop. So it's a typical Thursday night race. It's a handicap race, which means that D starts out first, followed by followed by C, followed by B, and then followed by A. And then the idea is that we all sort of finish at the end at the same time. But obviously every category wants to stay ahead of the category that's chasing it. So it's 3 laps of Innsbruckring, where this is, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but I certainly don't mind it as a racing route. The Legnsapper is really good. It's a good, it really sorts out the riders pretty quickly, and you know who's in the mix and who's not. So 3 laps, 26.6 kilometers, 230 meters of climbing. Nothing significant, but certainly it keeps everyone on their toes. So with this race, everyone gets allocated specific kit, so you know which category is in which, or which race is in which category. We're in the Fluoro Zwift kit on the Tron bike. Well, because typically most of this route's flat except for the Legnsapper, and that's only like 1 minute of effort, so nothing too outrageous. Keep the Tron bike nice and fast, especially on the downhill. All right, and as I thought, the race has already started, so let's just dial that back really quickly. Okay, so we're in the pens. We've got about 2 minutes 40 to go. We've got a few AHDR riders. Well, this is an AHDR race, but we've got a few AHDR C-grade riders here. Mike Brooks, who's the captain of my team, the Commodores, but he's also the beacon on this ride. You can see his text in the yellow messages there. So he's basically, sorting everyone out. And I took a quick second to reevaluate my settings, because as this wasn't streamed, I went with a higher than usual setting, but I kind of saw some little bits of lag as well, and so I've dialed it back to HD rather than Ultra. But yeah, it's been a bizarre issue. I don't know what the problem is in terms of whether it's OBS, whether it's recent updates to Zwift, or it could even be my Mac. I mean, I've got an old MacBook that I do all this on, and up until recently, it kind of just passed mustard. It did all right. Wasn't awesome, but it did okay. And the last few weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks, something has changed, and I can't put my finger on it just yet. I've been looking around, but what I see is that if I'm running Zwift, and it really doesn't matter what sort of resolution I'm running it at, and then I start OBS, and it doesn't matter what I do with OBS, it just really starts to grind. So much so that the refresh in Zwift gets to a point where there's no riders on bikes. The refresh rate really drops, so I'm not entirely sure. And I was really trying to see if I could dial it in to a point where I could stream and ride, but I just couldn't do it. So I abandoned the stream and we went with the recording. And so this is Thursday now. I'm actually getting this online now on Monday, so I've been a little bit slow in getting this up, but that's okay. Now we've got Jeremy there. We've got Mark, Mike. So we've got a few of the boys. We've got 7 seconds to go. All right, we're off. All right, so as I said, it's a category race, so a handicap race. And what that means is that the D grade riders have already set out, and I think we're sort of positioned about 1 or 2 minutes between each group. So D riders have already headed out, now we're heading out, and about a minute or two later B will head out, and then finally A. And one thing I noticed at the very start there was this guy R Silver just absolutely shot out of the gates, and he was gone. And Mike obviously picked it up too, so he sort of said, don't worry about it, let him go. There's no point in trying to chase him down. We'll just blow up and it won't be any good for anyone. And typically when that happens, so when you get 1 or 2 riders that, look, maybe they're trying to show off, maybe they're trying to, stamp their authority on the race, and they really put a massive effort out from the start. Typically what you find, unless they go in maybe a group of 2 or 3 or 4, the group will almost always catch them. So I wasn't overly concerned about that. But we've got Mike there in the beacon with his glorious afro. And we just passed 1 D rider already. So the challenge with this particular race, and this is why this race is such a great race, is that you've got to kind of work together as a group. And that kind of sounds a bit counterproductive in a race, because really, every man for himself. But in this particular race, as a group, we want to try and stay ahead of the Bs and the As as much as possible. And the only way to do that is everyone puts effort on the front. And when you think about it, when you've got sort of 30 odd riders, maybe more, in C grade, if everyone does 30 seconds or a minute on the front, that's most of the race already done. But what you tend to find though is that a lot of the guys will instinctively, they'll sit towards the back, and they'll let others, go to the front and put their noses to the wind. So it's a bit of a shame, but if I'm honest, I used to do it too. So yeah, what do you do? But Mike has led by example, and he did for the entire race. Like up until the 3rd lap, Mike was just doing these big efforts at the front. So at this point of the race, the lead-in's done. We're sort of settling into the first lap. Now, for people that don't do a lot of racing or want to get into racing and are unsure of what they need to do, or how do you stay on the front, it's one of the big questions I get, especially if you're in D grade and you're sort of looking to move up if you can. Staying in the draft, staying in the group, towards the back of the group, is just the biggest thing you can practice. And it's fine and good that you think, okay, well, they're stronger riders or they're faster riders or somehow they're better riders. It's not the case. You've got a real mix of abilities, ages, weights, and experience. And what you'll find though is that typically a lot of it comes down to practice. So staying in the draft. And when I say in the draft, you don't want to be in that first third. You kind of, if you're new to racing or you're not a strong racer yet, you want to sort of stay towards the middle of the pack. A middle to about maybe 2/3. You don't want to go too far past that, because what can flip around and change is that something happens on the front and you're too far back to take advantage of it, and you end up getting dropped. So this is a subtle little rise. This is like a false flat coming over the bridge. And I didn't realise I was going that far off the front. I didn't intend to do that. But I know that this is a section where we can kind of grind down a little bit. And I wanted to put a little bit of power in at the start when everyone's fresh and pull them over the bridge. Keep them all, pushing forward. And then on this night, So as I said, this is Thursday night just past. Man, it was warm. It was really warm. So I'm in Melbourne, and I'm used to riding in the, well, heat. I mean, it's not really that hot, but certainly we have our moments in summer at the moment. So I've got this big fan that sits right in front of me, and was feeling all right sort of through the first 2/3 of the race, but the heat really was kicking in, and I didn't realise it, but I'm sort of watching my heart rate now. At the start of the race, I'll tend to sit around that 150, 155, but I noticed that I was already at that one in the mid 160s. So I'm conscious of where my heart rate's sitting, and you don't want to be foolish and just try and sit on the front, because you're just you'll lose whatever the reserves you've got, whatever energy you have. You're just going to blow that out the water. And again, we can see Mike there still on the front. A few of the other guys were taking turns. And so the way I like to do it, if I'm feeling okay, and you want to put some effort in the front there. Usually, what I'll do is you'll end up naturally pushing to the front, and so where it says we've been racing for 6.5 minutes. If I'm towards the front there, I'll look at that and go, okay, well, I'll push from the front for 30 seconds and then back it off, or push to the front for 45 seconds and then back it off. But knowing that we're about to come up to the first leg snapper, I'm not overly keen to push to the front, and I don't think anyone is. And this is where the speed kind of drops. I mean, we can see, even though at 1%, false flat, we've dropped down to about 35 kilometres, which, we probably should be doing a bit better than that. Alright, so we come around, we had that little dog leg, thanks Sharon for the ride on there. Little dog leg to the right. And anyone who knows this route knows exactly what's coming. And it starts at the second crosswalk just here. Boom. So incline kicks up 5%, just around that little bend there. I think averages, what is it, about 7 or 8%. But it's only 750 metres, so really this is a minute effort. And that's how you've got to think of it. Normally I will stand up for the minute, and it's about, on my bike, it's about 80 RPM for this 1 minute, roughly speaking, in the gear that I'll get into. So stay in the big ring, but come back down to the cassette in the back, and it's about 80 revolutions. So I'll count them down in my head. And I know when we get to the last speed sign just up on the right here. Now, I don't know if anyone can tell me, is that signage on the right new? I kind of thought that it was new. It felt like it was different. I don't know, maybe it's just me. And you want to keep the power on if you can until that second crosswalk. That's the big trick. And surprisingly, when I looked around, I realised there was only 3 of us there. We had completely dropped the rest of the group. So that's not a good thing. I don't want to be in the front after the first leg snapper. And like one of the guys here is saying, yep, go easy. Yeah, and I was completely agreeing with that. You don't want to be in a bunch of say 10 guys. Yeah, you can probably stick that and make that gap stick. But with only 3 guys, it was more of a mistake than it was a strategic move. So I was happy to soft pedal this. At the same time, just try and bring my heart rate down. And now we can see the rest of the some of the riders are bridging that gap. I mean, we'll see very shortly the rest of them catch up. Yep. And there's Mike doing what he does well, and instructing the group and trying to just get us to come back together. And it's weird too, because I've been racing in the WTRL. Now I'm looking at these sprint sections thinking, shit, I've got to sprint now. We've got to get some points here. But I don't have to worry about it in the chop. In the WTRL and the Zwift Racing League, these sprint segments are where you get the points. And the team that gets the most points at the end of the race is the one that really wins the race. You don't have to be the first one across the line to win. Alright, so we can see the group is coming back together on the mini map in the right hand top corner. Mike's back in front there. And so we've come back, we're settling it in. 41 kilometres. I think we want to stick it around 40 kilometres. And that R Silver guy, man, he's 30 seconds out. I didn't get a chance to look at his stats. I think probably he's not a C grade rider if he's pushing that kind of power. Alright, so we're over the bridge. We come back down this long straight. And we'll clock up. Yeah, so I thought of push to the front. Take a turn. Who have I got there with me? Mason, Mike. Passing some more D grade riders. And look, if you're in D grade and you want to race this is such a great race to really practice. So if you can, jump into these handicap races, and if you're in D grade, your goal is when the C grade guys pass you, and at some point they will, you want to try and jump on the back of them and hold them for as long as you can. And each time you race, and each time that happens, try and hold them for longer. And you'll be surprised at the improvement that you'll experience. You'll go from being, in your low or high 150 watt output to 200 to 220 to 240 before you even know it. Hanging on to the back of the fast group is the way to do it every time. You want to be the slowest in the back of the fast group. You don't want to be the fastest in the front of the slow group. Okay, so that's the first lap done and dusted. Now the interesting thing here is that a bit of racing mentality comes in. And so what I'm doing is I'm watching that mini map, and what you want to see, or what you want to hopefully have happen, is in any race you want to cull down the field a little bit. You don't want too many stragglers on that are just clinging to life, and they're the ones that potentially they get a rush of blood at the end and they can sprint past you and take the win. Well, it didn't happen in this case. I didn't win in this race at all, and the chop's a sensationally hard race to win anyway. The best I think I've gotten is 4th. But what you do want to do though is you want to sort of prune the weaker branches if you can. Because there'll be a lot of races in here that are happy just to sit on the back. And so again, pushing to the front, trying to lift that speed up. 43, 44 kilometers an hour. Yeah, I'm not sure if Adrian is he wasn't one of our guys, I didn't see him. We want to push this though. I mean, this is all flat. Like this is 0, 1, minus 1%. This is a good spot to try and lift that power. And again, like the mathematics are really clear. When you've got 30 guys, or 30 races, sorry, in your group, all you have to do is everyone takes 2 30-second stints on the front. That's it. And if everyone does that, you're going to win. You're just going to win. But it can't be 4 or 5 or 10 guys taking frequent 1 and 2 minute stints on the front. It's just not going to work. In this race. In crits, where it's a serious man for himself, yep. Be a wheel sucker for as long as you can. Trust me on this, it works every time. Yeah, so we've got like 41 guys in, well, 41 entrants. I don't know if there's actually 41 in the group. So we come up to the roundabout, that right hand. Yeah, as I said before, this is a really strategic little section. It's really unassuming. When you've got this short section, but I think it does get up to like 2 or 3%. If you've got guys in the back that are hurting, this is the spot to drop them. Alright, so, yep, messing around with change of camera angle here. There we go, Mike in the front, leading the charge. Oh, I'm also sporting my new ZRL helmet because we won Season 1 in the APAC Div 1 C grade. The winners get a helmet that you can't get anywhere else except for when you're in a race. So I've got that on today, or in this race. Am I messing with my green screen? Okay. Now, I do like using this camera. Yeah, that's Mike probably having a crack at me, actually. I'm just reading that comment now. I don't think he was happy about pushing the pace on that first leg snapper. Now, this is the weird thing, like, I like this camera angle better in Zwift because you get to see more of your field. And I don't necessarily need to see me specifically, but I get to see more of the back markers and I get to see who's up at front. The problem is though, you can't set that angle. And I would love to do it and have that angle just positioned that way for the entire race. And so you can kind of, like I wouldn't be able to see that back marker, see what's going on. But then what happens is as the race swings around, then all of a sudden your camera angle ends up going into buildings or into trees or mountains, and you get caught up with a whole bunch of other stuff that appears on the screen. So anyway, that's just me complaining about something that is probably pretty relevant. That and my mouse pointer that's on the screen there, which I'm a little bit frustrated by. And so we can see there's a bunch of D grades up ahead there. So we'll hit them pretty soon. You know, when you take that left-hander and you just know exactly what's going to happen. Just that 1 minute effort coming up. Was it was it Stanley? I don't know. RAF Chinooks. He did okay. He was on the front of a fair bit too. And so was Mark. But I think Jeremy dropped off a bit. I didn't see him after a while. Alright, so back into the climb again. And I'm trying to do the right thing here. I'm trying just to stay in the blob and not move up too much. Keep maybe third or fourth from the front there. Try and keep the blob together. And even then, even still, I'm not putting, you can tell from the histogram at the bottom of the screen there, I'm not putting in massive effort there. 158, well, no, it's 320, 300 watts. And we got another gap, so, yeah. Easy over the top. And back to camera view, camera position 1. So again, sort of soft pedaling down. Yep, get a little sneaky super tuck. Hopefully get the rest of the group to bunch up again. Heart rate sitting at 177 then. I don't, you know, in the last dozen, or half dozen races, you know, I've been sort of tapping out at about 175, 176. But 177 was a bit high, and I think it was been a bit higher than that actually. You know, this is a race where I actually ended up, you'll see in the results at the end there, I think my max heart rate was 189. And that's unbelievable because I've not been that high in oh gosh, in a long time, in a few years. And I really think it was just the heat. I couldn't cool down. I should have had the second fan turned on, only had the one fan on max. And normally that's enough. Normally I don't have to have more than that. Alright, so coming up to that little sprint segment. Let's not worry about that. Hey, does it bug anyone else? Especially, you know, if you're in a race like this and you've got a beacon, where the beacon's name appears at the front. So if the beacon's behind me, all I can really see is the beacon's name and the distance he is behind me. I can't see anyone else that might be between me and the beacon. It's just such a painful thing. Now I get it for group rides. You want to know how far you are away from the beacon, fine. But in races where that happens, it's really frustrating. Alright, so come up to that little hairpin. And this is all still pretty downhills here, so this is the point where you're recovering. Again, if you're racing, you really want to learn your points in the race where there's some nice downhill bits or even just false flats that are going down where you can recover. They're the points you want to target. It's if you're not conscious of those sections, you end up either keep pushing through them, you know, fine if you're strong enough, but you don't get a chance to recover. And then what you find is then you turn around, you hit a little false flat like this where it's 1%, and you can't figure out why it is that you can't keep up or you're not maintaining power, or you're getting dropped. So the important thing with racing is to know your route. Know the little undulations, know where you can pick up speed, know where you can get a rest, drift to the back of the group, have some recovery before the next effort starts. Because that's really all it is. It's just effort and recovery, effort and recovery. But you need to be able to recover under some effort. So Mike's doing another big effort at the front there. Stanley's behind him. Who else we still got with us? Who's around? Yeah. Just a few guys I don't recognise them. Oh, is that Mike or Mark Ball? I think he was racing in... Oh, which one was it? Tune Bike Works? I think. I could be wrong. Tune Bike Works in season 1, and they were really putting us to the sword. We spent a fair bit of time discussing Tune Bike Works and how we were going to race against them. That was pretty good fun. Okay, so third lap. Here we come. So Mark's at the back there. I just noticed that now. Mark was back 50 seconds, so he must have gotten dropped on that second climb. I think Jeremy did too, because I didn't see him for a while. But Jeremy's been doing some big kilometres, so I won't hold that against him. So Mark's giving us some intel there with A and B probably passing him. I know they weren't far. Like we were coming up to the third leg snapper. I knew they weren't far behind us. And so that's Mike telling some of the other C grade riders to jump on the in front. And having said that, here I am sitting at the back. But I was getting pretty cooked by this time. And I knew that third leg snapper was going to be a bit of a challenge. So my heart rate's sitting at just 169, and this is the point where it should be clocking back to 160 and 170 now. I remember going to that third leg snapper and going, oh, my heart rate was like 174. It was not going to be pretty. We haven't caught everyone yet, Adrian. Alright, so again I'm trying to concentrate on just not being on the front too much. Heart rate's still really super high. Sitting at the back there, just trying to just recover. But even like you can see my watts there, I'm still just sitting on the back there. It's still at 260, 270. And again, for D grade riders and ones that want to progress up through, that's the practice part, and really that's just training. I mean, that's all it is. You're just training. But it's that practice of sitting on the back, even if it's at 250 watts, 260 watts, and trying to recover, that you need to just do over and over and over again. Like, I think I've got a handle on it, and it's only been like 150 races. And even now, sort of was just pushing to the front there a little bit. And it's hard because when you've got a teammate that's doing some hard yards at the front there like Mike was, you kind of, you don't want them to do it by themselves, and so you end up trying to push the front just to help them. Alright, so we've got another D group in front of us just up ahead there. And that's the other thing about these races too. So when you do see a group up ahead like that, you do end up putting the power down a little bit because you've sort of got some of the chase. So still 35 k's over this bridge. And I think you can see in the mini map in the top right hand corner, the green group behind us, so that's B grade. Yeah, so come past B. And that's the thing, the last thing you want to do when if you're in D grade and you're getting passed by the next group and you're already on the limit, is to try and kick it up one extra gear and then stay with the passing group. But that's the ticket. That's what you got to do. That's the secret sauce. If you can do that, and even if you hold on to that passing group for an extra minute or 2 minutes, that's all you need to do. Now I was reading that little comment that Mike just sent through just then, and I thought, oh, that's what he's thinking. I think Mike's good for another good turn on the front, and that will be it for Mike. Yeah, there he goes. You can see him now pushing to the front. He knows that once he gets to the leg snapper, he's probably that'll be it.
Did you let me go and drop this?
You want to eat it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so big lead up there. There we go. See, here we go. One of the D grade riders sitting in with us. And I bet you he's hurting like anything, but that's what you got to do. And just hold on for as long as you can. All right, coming up to the cobbles. Heart rate's at 178. Oh, this is not going to be good. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, this is going to hurt. This is really going to hurt. This is not how I wanted it to be. And when I did an analysis back to, I think, the last one of the last races, I think it was the WTRL race on Innsbruck, I did 1 minute. So I did a PR on the leg snapper for 1 minute, and that was at like 171 beats per minute. It was a higher wattage. I don't remember the exact wattage, but then my fastest lap on the leg snapper in this race was 106, and my heart rate was like maybe 189. So you'll see it start to really climb up here. So it's just bizarre how things like heat can affect how good the race is. Heat, nutrition, how much water you've had. Oh, and how's this? I had a feather and completely didn't use it. So I'm really beginning to hurt here. It's really not great. I'm not liking this whatsoever. So 183. I'm up on the pedals. So I'm just trying to hit like a consistent sort of 450, 500. And this is the trick. This is the trick, especially with this particular segment. You can't let up. You think, oh, yeah, I'm in here. No, that's a big difference between letting up here and then letting up around the corner. But unfortunately, in this particular case, I let up just before the corner, and that was it for me. I was done. And now we can see is that B grade? I can't remember what the jerseys are for B and A. I think that's B. I think about this point I realised I've still got the feather, and this is where I fire that. But just give me something to get over this, and maybe I can stick with this group as we go down. So you can see I'm putting effort there. Man, but heart rate 189, I think it clocked in at. Got a nice little super tuck. Yeah, so I think I just waited there a little bit for one of the B grade riders to come around. Because, you know, what are you going to do? I mean, I don't want to be in the middle of nowhere by myself. That's not going to work. But if there's another rider you can work with... And there we go. They're the A's. The A's coming past now. Yep. So you can see that red dot in the top right hand corner. So I picked up an arrow. Wasn't sure when I've used this stuff. In this particular route, I don't know, I tend to just misuse power-ups a lot of the time. And maybe because I'm just too focused on that leg snapper and the power that you need to put in, the concentration of staying on the grip ahead of you. But I tend to just misuse these things really badly. So you can see I'm kind of soft pedaling there. I'm not putting out big efforts because I can see 2 or 3 B grade riders behind me. Now I've got 1.5 kilometers to go. Oh, they're B grade kits. The AHDR kit is the A grade. So okay, gotcha. So I decided to sit in with these guys. I fired the arrow just to give me a little kick to sit in. Heart rate still 136. So I'm looking at the map. I can't see any other C grades behind me. We've got 1 kilometer to go, and I can't see any C grades ahead of me that, well, you know, maybe if I had one ahead of me, I could probably try and chase them down. But right now I'm thinking I'll just stick with these guys and they can bring me in. And like the group that I lost of the other C grades, like Stanley's saying nice work C, they're only 18 seconds ahead. It wasn't a big one, and I was a bit disappointed in myself for not pushing over the top of the leg snapper to stay in on that group. But I think it was just the heat. So 500 meters to go. Again, just keeping an eye on that map in the top right hand corner. Now, I can't tell how many races I've been in where I think, oh yeah, there's no one around me, and all of a sudden a group just comes flying past and you go from being in 17th position to, like, you know, 35th. So keeping an eye on that map in the top right hand corner is just paramount. You want that. But no, that was it. I sort of hit the power on. I was happy with that. So you can still see there 370, 360. Get the power going. And that was it. So raw numbers, finished 17th. I think I ended up with... Oh, not that, that's for sure. Sorry, I'm just going to change screens there to... shop. There we go. Alright, so we can see there, I think I finished, I know, 30th I think or whatever, but ended up with 11th. There we go. Yeah, I thought I'd get better power too. That's 3 watts per kilo, that's where I've been sitting at. Normalized power was 268. Come on, hurry up. Yeah. Look at that. Heart rate. 189. I would have to go back a long way, I think, to see anything different to that. So overall, good race. Happy with 11th. Good result. And yeah, no, it was good. That was good. I was just sorry. I'm just looking through the stats there and just having a bit of a think about. Yeah, some good numbers there. Good consistent numbers. So I'm happy with that. Anyway, we've got the W2 race coming up tomorrow night. Going to be recording that, won't be streaming it, only because it's got this issue. I've got a new MacBook coming, but it's not until February, so I'm just going to have to record and then repost the races. But I'll try and do it much more quickly, hopefully on the same night rather than waiting 2 or 3 days. So anyway, if you enjoyed what you liked and you got some benefit out of it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will catch you guys in the next race.